All right, welcome back everyone. You're tuned in to BRIMBANK Live FM. You're listening to Lydia, I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-hosts AD and Roshani, and we are currently at the African Music and Cultural Festival at the Immigration Museum, joined by Monica Forson, who was a part of the long, really thought-provoking and powerful panel discussion. Thank you for joining us. Monica, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you here, to be honest.
That was one of my favorite things that I was looking forward to today was this panel discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that it wasn't, like half an hour or something short where you don't really get to dive deep into the situation. So I'm really glad that they gave you guys the opportunity and the time to really express yourselves. And it was really, really wonderful.
Yeah. How did that go for you?
It's always great getting to speak about my perspectives. Because often I think, who really cares what Monica has to say? And people are like, it was great. But to be completely honest, I was just really excited to be on a panel with an idol. She's an idol. She's she's a celebrity. So even to be considered on a panel with her is a real blessing and an honor. So and I'm obviously friends with Monica as well. So it's not always you're in a panel and you're friends and it's a bit of a love fest. So this is quite a unique experience.
Oh, that's really beautiful, and it's so in line with our theme, which is celebrating diversity and harmony. Speaking of diversity, we have been calling people up and exploring, what's your cultural background and what the significance of being here today for you personally.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Australia, as I said on stage, from St Albans. I'm a Westie, born and bred. But my mother is Anglo-Celtic Australian and my father's Ghanaian. He came about 30 or so years ago. So, I think culture is really important. My mum's also quite a quirky white lady, so she's been interested in like African music and Jamaican things. So I don't think I necessarily grew up in a really traditional Aussie family. It was always embracing different cultures and whatnot.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And how has that shaped your experience? Obviously, you said that you do have that mixed kind of culture. Growing up, what were your experiences like?
I think it's changed over time. When I was young, I was the only black person in a lot of the arenas I was in. And it was actually, I remember distinctly being in primary school and I saw a kid that I thought looked like me, and then later on I was told he was Aboriginal. And I'm like, when you're 5, it doesn't really matter what someone is, if someone looks like you. To go from feeling different and not seeing anyone that looks like you to them being misidentified as Aboriginal, then as I got older, and there's more diversity that have come to Victoria in particular. It's funny because the shifting narrative changes. You're no longer considered African necessarily, rightly and wrongly. I think for me personally, there's been a real discovery of what it means to be black in Australia, and acknowledging there are certain privileges offered to some and not to others, and that colorism has a really big role to play in people's experiences, how male gaze looks at you as well, having people approach, I really like you because you're fair, and if we had kids, this. So from being a really innocent child and just being black and that's all I know, to then navigating myself through what it means to be a black woman in Australia and being receptive to others' experiences as well.
One of the main things that I took away from your earlier discussion, I don't know who said this, but it was this idea that we have to make our own African Australian identity. Not that is similar or the same as African American or any other place in the West that has had that black culture embedded in them, but we have to make our own thing, and that I think has caused a lot of confusion and identity crises amongst a lot of black kids at the moment. But something that you specifically said, and I was like, woohoo, was when you said, I don't really like the word assimilation. And I think we all agree with that, because it is this sense of having to stop being who you are and pick up a completely different culture and adapt to that to make you a person, and that doesn't make sense to me. So can you talk more about that?
I really do hate the word assimilation, because as I said on the stage, I feel like I have to give something up to be part of the majority. And I think probably being biracial as well, it's like, well, I've already got half of everything. Like, what more can I give up? Or do I have to give up one part of me to satisfy another? And I can't navigate this world as a white woman. I'm not white. So to suggest that I need to act and behave in an Anglo-Celtic fashion in Australia is just not a reality for me. So I do think for me personally, I've been quite fortunate to have a connection to my culture, and I've spoken to other biracial people who have said I didn't really know who I was, so I took from another culture, and this person who's also Ghanaian mixed with white, and he had this big Maori tattoo on his arm, and I'm like, why the hell do you have that? It's not from your culture. But he's like, but I didn't know what my culture is, and I just wanted to connect with something. So yeah, I'm a really strong advocate of it's about inclusion and making sure that everyone feels that they can bring their full selves to the table.
That's amazing. Wow, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find you, and what are you doing in the community? Because Yao, the first thing that Yao said, which is someone who introduced us to each other, he really you didn't listen to that part, but he really said you're doing some really great things in the community, and he urged us to connect for that reason. I'm just interested to know what sort of work you're doing in the community.
Yeah, I feel like when I first met Yao, I was doing lots of voluntary stuff. It's the hustle, and everyone has to do a bit of grinding, so to speak. But at the moment, I'm not doing too much in a voluntary capacity. I'm really happy in my job at the moment. I work at the Victorian Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission, and my roles in community engagement is about connecting people to the organisation, understanding there are protections under the law. So as much as I can in that role, I try to really reach into people that I admire and have a lot of time for, Yao being one of those people, and just bringing them into the conversation. So I feel like in a very losery / old woman way, if you want to reach out to me, find me on LinkedIn.
I love it.
Very professional.
Your AD's on the LinkedIn.
I'm on the LinkedIn.
We need to get more
That's where
into
it's at.
I have a private
popping.
Instagram account.
Okay.
I feel like sometimes when you're in a public role, there's an expectation to look and sound and present yourself in a certain way, wear a blazer on stage, whereas I want my personal accounts to really be about me living in my own little ratchet world, whatever that is. So just being able to separate my personal and my private. But if you want to contact me, LinkedIn's it.
No, that's great.
I love that. But I genuinely believe in just being yourself, whether professionally or privately. It's all one. So for me, I don't try and separate what I look like professionally from personally.
Because you're like a complex identity. It's not, you're not just one facet.
I mean, I don't wear bikinis, but if I enjoyed wearing bikinis.
But I think in this case, is it that you just separate who you allow to have visibility of?
Exactly.
Right.
I don't want my next employer to have gone through all my photos, me at a birthday party in 2016. We all change and evolve, and I feel like sometimes on social media it can be quite static. You can be called out for things that you thought and I don't have this big dossier of all this bad stuff Monica's done, so don't get that vibe.
Don't go looking.
There's nothing to find. But just the idea, you want to see me in a professional way, there's my LinkedIn account.
But beautiful. That's awesome.
Thank you
it was
so
lovely
much.
chatting with you ladies.
You too. What's your one message to the world, Monica?
This is AD's big question for everyone.
My one message to everyone in the world. I said it on the stage and I'll say it again. I think be kind and have compassion for others. Easy to say but harder to do.
Absolutely.
Wow, powerful. Thank you so much for joining us, Monica. If you're tuning in, which you are because you're listening right now, we're at the African Music and Cultural Festival at the Immigration Museum. You're listening to Lydia, joined by AD and Roshani, BRIMBANK Live FM. We're covering the events of the day. It's a beautiful day. Get down because it goes till 10 o'clock, so it's not too late. Thank you, Monica, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys soon.
With thanks to the City of BRIMBANK across our neighbourhood and the world, Soul Dive with AD, Roshani and Lydia on BRIMBANK Live on Live FM.